Hey, hello, good morning, welcome to stream. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay, okay. Understandable, it's late for you after all. That's fine with me. I get it, I get it. I get it. Okay, let's just move my screen a bit closer. I was distracted because apparently they've changed the Twitch app, the mobile app. So now the stream handler thingy activity thing was weird, and I was like, "What?" And I noticed during the Wawas, and I'm like, "Fucking, you can't just do this to me." You have to tell me before. Ah! But it's fine. It's fine. I was a bit distracted, but hello! Here I am. This could do this. No, I couldn't do that. Okay. If I do this, maybe. Nope. Okay. Anyway, done with that shit. We are gonna start with reading. Reading. Yes, we're gonna start with reading more. Growing lilies. Today. Shocker, shocker. And then, as usual, I haven't decided what I want to do yet. We will see. It's like morning streams, aka streams, are like I've conditioned to use yawn. I'm not even tired anymore. Stop it. I woke up like 2.5 hours ago. But I've been busy. Did I diffuse? I did. More yawning. And we're very soon gonna go into some script reading. I like that it's called that now, script reading. As if the rest is just like improvised. Hello, Tammy. Welcome, welcome. Okay, well, let's go with some script reading immediately. I'm ready. Last time on Growing Lilies. Lily gets out of the pit with the help of her magic. Fuck. I thought it was a. That was it. That was the sentence. Shit, I have to fix it. I actually now realize that I never proofread this before I started. Okay, fuck it. Redo. Last time on Growing Lilies. Lily gets out of the pit with the help of her magic. The morning after, she has a therapy session with Bay where she brings up the theory if she even can die at this point. That maybe she has, and she is in some type of loop where she isn't the original Lily anymore. She thinks of it as silly and instead goes to take care of the chickens. Star helps her round them up and also finds some unwelcome guests. An angry dog pack lives close to the house. But the next day, it's farm time. On the farm, we meet its protector, Donk the Donkey, and scary fridge poetry, which spells out basement. Basement, it's basement time. Basement, it's basement time. Basement, basement, basement. So now it's basement time. Let's go. Basement time. Oh. Chapter 26. The basement. Again. It was time. Whatever was going on down there was pulling in magic, and Lily wasn't about to be living on top of a giant bomb or something. She wasn't stoked about having to take an elevator down to whatever it was, but at least. Oh, this is a good start. She wasn't stoked about having to take an elevator down to whatever it was, but at least she knew enough magic to get it to go up or down without electricity if need be. If something went terribly wrong mechanically and it didn't instantly kill her, she was at least pretty sure she wouldn't be trapped forever. Somehow, she still wasn't exactly full of confidence. She probably had time to prepare, but without knowing what was down there at all, what was she supposed to prepare? She could bring shock, water, her phone. What else? A weapon? Could she even use a weapon? No. She'd be more likely to hurt herself than something else. Plus, she was a magic user now. She'd figure it out if she had to. Probably. Hello, Endless Haze. Welcome. We just started reading. It's basement time. Really, most of her preparation was mental. She really wasn't ready for another trial like the pit. But it was entirely possible that there was nothing bad down there, or that she could take a look and then decide how to deal with it carefully, rather than throwing herself into the bottom of a death trap and then working her way out. Before anything else, though, it was time to try and explain to Star what she was going to do. She called him over and sat down with him, petting his head gently. So, under the house is something magical. I don't know what, but I can't just let it sit. I have to go deal with it. Ugh, I wish I knew how much of what I'm saying you understood. Danger, but important. Understand? Star's ears flattened, and he looked at her with an expression that made her think he at least understood danger. He pawed at her leg gently. I have to go. You don't have to go. Do you want to stay up here or go with me? He barked and stood to attention. Well, that was pretty clear at least. Lily sighed and hugged him around the chest. Good boy. All right, I'm going to get Bay for emotional support and some basic supplies. Then we'll go. Kinda lost my plot while studying, so can't really listen to stream because spoilers. I gotta watch VODs before staying on streams. Have a good stream. Thank you so much for coming anyway, and good luck with your studying, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the VODs. Thank you. A girl stood in front of an elevator. In one arm, a plush seal. In the other, a small bag full of miscellaneous supplies. Next to her, a puppy that was starting to look too large to still be shaped like that. She had been standing there for several minutes now, working up the courage to open the door. I don't want to open it. Star whined. Lily could see her reflection in the chrome doors of the elevator. She didn't look ready. She didn't feel ready. Her mess of brown hair looked disheveled and tangled. She was wearing durable work clothes that hung ill-fitting on her body, and she looked like she was going to cry. She felt like she was going to cry too. But for at least right now, she was keeping it together. I just need to push the button and go in. That's not so hard. Hey! Star jumped up and pressed the button on the panel, then turned to her looking proud of himself. Lily was angry for a second, but couldn't help laughing when she saw his face. The door opened. It was an elevator. The mood was somewhat lighter, though, so Lily rolled her eyes and took a cautious step in. It was carpeted with a short, deep red carpet. There were guardrails to hang onto, made of brass color, and the walls were still chrome. It looked like it belonged in a movie theater, really. Not a pleasing style at all. Lily filled the rest of the way into it. Filed? File the rest of the way into. I don't know what that means. Now's the time when the cable snaps and I plummet into the basement for another life or death adventure. Right? But nothing happened. Lily stood nervously in the elevator. On the panel, something caught her eye. There, stuck right on the basement button, was something that hadn't been there before. What the hell? A sticky note. It had a simple message, written in a neat, printed font. My final gift to you. Lily froze. Her first thought was about how creepy it was that someone might have been here, but then she realized they might have just appeared. Then she fully took in the text. Final? As in, this is the last time I'm going to hear from Entity B? Or just the last time they're going to help me? Or that I'm going to die down there? Yeah, she's gonna die. She's going to... That's the last gift. Death. The only way to make it to stream is skipping school. Well. Thank you for coming to the stream. Welcome, Verbinton. School can wait. What do you learn anyway? She shook off that last one. The girl stood in the elevator, staring at the sticky note for a long time. Star sniffed at it and turned to look at her, tail wagging. Don't you get too happy. We don't know how true this is, but Entity B called it a gift and they've given me helpful things before. I guess all that's left is... Lily reached out and hit the big B button. Entity B. B? Bottom basement. The elevator doors closed, and it started moving downward. It felt like forever before it came to a stop, but it had to only be about 10 seconds. There was a soft ding, and the doors opened up into a very large, very dark space. Lily immediately fumbled around the wall, just outside the elevator for a light switch, but she didn't find one immediately. So she flicked on her phone and turned on the flashlight. There were some kind of stripes on the ground, like the painted lines of a basketball court or something. But she could check that out after she got the lights on. Star immediately started forward, sniffing around. Be careful! We don't know what's in here. Lily found the light switch and flicked it. Instantly, the room flooded with light. Lily blinked, her eyes adjusting. The room was about as big as the floor plan above, only it was a single space, and it was mostly empty, save for a few things. There were some rocks or crystals or something at various points around the room, but what immediately caught Lily's attention was a spell circle. What the hell? It's huge! The largest spell circle Lily had seen by a wide margin. It looked like it had been carved into the floor, and then filled in with a silvery metal like a cast. It was extremely ornate. Not to mention complicated. Many circles nested within one another, sometimes many layers deep. The spell covered almost the entire floor space of the room, with only 4 or 5 feet around the edges to walk around. Suddenly worried, Lily felt out the mana in the area, but the circle didn't seem to be activated at all. There was nothing going on. It was silent. Okay, is this going to suddenly activate when I step on it, or can I go take a look around? Lily carefully put a hand in the space above the circle. Nothing happened. She giggled to herself. Why? You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in, and shake it all about. I recognize that this is some shit, yes. Is the hokey pokey about testing the dangers of magic circles? Star was staring at her, and she could swear there was a hint of judgment. So she focused. Well, there was only one thing to do. She took a step into the circle. Nothing happened. Lily breathed a sigh of relief. If I'd gotten suddenly vaporized, that'd have been the most anticlimactic death ever. Star stepped into the circle too, and started sniffing around it. Lily bent and examined one of the nodes more closely. Sure enough, the node was a complicated circle in and of itself, with a few more complicated circles nested in nodes inside of it, the smallest of which was done in tiny metal filigree. None of the glyphs were particularly recognizable, but she could read some of the radicals. The symbol for mana was all over, naturally, but she saw bits of other ones she recognized too, and plenty more she didn't. While on the plus side, she'd have a ton of new ones to test. But what do you do? And why are you not doing it? A clattering sound caught her attention. Star had dropped a large circular crystal next to her ankle. Or was it a gem? What was the difference anyway? In either case, it must have been worth a ton. It was the size of her fist. She looked at him. He was clearly proud of himself. Was it because he thought he was helping or because he brought her the ball? Hey, how am I supposed to know where this goes, huh? Where'd you get it? He looked a little put out, but he got up and walked over to a spot before sitting down again. Lily wandered over after him. There sat a circle within a node that she was pretty sure she understood. In fact, she'd seen 3 of the glyphs before, on her ever-burning flame. If this is where the ball had belonged, this part of the circle was designed to draw mana from it. Huh, so it's a battery. Oh my god, don't tell me crystals and gems can store a bunch more mana or something. That's such a cliche. Why would it even work that way? Lily glanced around the room. There were 7 of them, all spread pretty evenly around the circle. She narrowed her eyes. Does Entity B have a sense of humor? Is it familiar with pop culture? Is it playing a prank on me? Because either this is a coincidence or a subtle nod to Dragon Balls or Chaos Emeralds. If it was a reference, it had all the subtlety of a school principal trying to pretend to be cool for the children. Lily looked down at the sphere in her hands. It was purple. Amethyst, maybe. The others were all different colors. This was an expensive joke, if it was one. But if it was just a matter of charging up the Dragon Balls and placing them properly in the circle, she could do that. The main question was, what would happen if she did? A rainbow. I guess I just have to read the circle, huh? Her eyes swept over the vast formation of esoteric magical symbols and patterns. Easy, right? Does this count as a spooky spot? Because it has a magic circle in it? Technically it should, right? Because this was not what I expected. But we did say that it was a spooky spot. So I was like, somewhat correct. But then again, not really. It wasn't a person. Maybe she will summon a person. Then, yes, please. Summon a person. Lily had spent the next couple hours with a pen and a notepad, jotting down every single glyph she could find on the circle. When she had found common elements between more than 2, she'd written them down as radicals too. Now she was sitting on her living room floor with the pages splayed out in front of her. There was so much to go over. It wasn't fair. Like being given a pop quiz on material that was assigned to you not 10 minutes ago. Lily groaned. Earlier today, she had been complaining that she had weeks' worth of things she wanted to test out with magic. Now she was pretty sure she'd still be learning from this circle for years. She still had no idea what it did. Absolutely none. It seemed just as likely that it'd bring everyone back or that it'd spit out the perfect hamburger conjured into being. She just couldn't read enough of the glyphs to know, but she had a pretty good idea of where to start. First, she wanted to try some of the most common radicals as solo glyphs and see if she could figure out what they described. Then she wanted to play with the glyphs that seemed to be the largest focus on the circle, the largest ones towards the center. Finally, well, this was more of a side goal, but she needed to charge up the Dragon Balls. Dragon Emeralds? Chaos Balls? She didn't know what to call them yet. Gems? They were somewhere in the middle of those two ideas, but she suspected they were just really good mana batteries. So the sooner she got them charging, the better. But it's not like just putting them in the front yard was going to work well. After all, if she just had a bunch of ambient mana gathering spells, they'd all be slurping from the same pool. It was time to track down some more spooky spots and set each one to charge from one of those. Then, when they were all charged up, she could come back, plug them in, and... what? Did she even want to activate the spell? Entity B had called it a final gift. Did that mean it was a way to get back to a normal life? Or was it more like a gun with a single bullet in a zombie apocalypse movie? Or... ugh, I have no idea. What are you trying to give me? Is it just for collecting magical knowledge? Am I gonna power it and a little message will pop up like, oh, congratulations, Lily, achievement unlocked? Huh? Or is Shenron gonna appear and grant me a wish? Do I become Super Lily? What is the gift? Couldn't spare the printer ink to tell me? Pretty cheap for a powerful supernatural being. Lily wanted to scream, but in truth she was at least somewhat relieved. She wasn't living over a bomb. It was going to take her a good while to figure out what to do with the gigantic magical working under her house. But it was at least something good. It was something good, right? She sighed. Lily flopped down onto her couch and let Star jump up and lay on her. He really was heavier. She was pretty sure normal puppies didn't come in this size. Oh, she has to sacrifice Star to the magic circle. And you, how big are you gonna get, huh? Thanks for coming with me. I was less scared with you there. He nuzzled into her, and she rubbed behind his ears. Well, the next steps just got somehow more complicated. Are you ready for it? She heard the steady thump of Star's tail wagging and grinned. Good boy. Good boy. Okay, so a huge magic circle, which has a lot of crystals, aka mana batteries, that she has to put into spooky spots to charge and then bring back to activate the spell, who does something that we don't know. But Entity B said it was a gift, so it should be something nice. Maybe it's another yacht. Maybe it's a cow. Chapter 27. The last girl in the world sat in her driveway, contemplating what to do next. Suddenly, she had a world of choices, which was a good thing, sorta. She'd always struggled with decision paralysis, and what was more, it seemed like the optimal choices were just boring. Okay, not boring really, but tedious beyond what might be tolerable. She had a lot of glyphs to run tests on. A lot. Counting radicals, nearly 200. She wasn't even sure she got them all. So now it was pretty clear what she needed to do. She could even test one of her prevailing magical theories in the process. But either way, she was going to be sitting here for probably the rest of the day, and maybe even the day after, just trying different glyphs and observing the results. So with a sigh, she got started. The basic formation she wanted to create was simple, and she got to it with her shock spear. She was creating a modified version of her battery charging spell from earlier. Mana was gathered, flowed into one of the Dragon Balls, then flowed out into a capacitor. Are we really gonna call it a Dragon Ball? Any excess was channeled back into the Dragon Ball and limited by one of her new gates. Excess from that would be expelled into a small flame. Easy. The final touch was a circle coming off of that capacitor. It flowed to a 3-node circle, but the nodes were empty. At the end, it went back to the first circle, completing the circuit. Now she could add up to 3 glyphs to her test circle to see what they did, and they would be powered by the Dragon Ball if it had enough power. If it didn't, then all she'd have to do is wait. Which brought her to the brunt of her work. Meticulously testing every glyph and radical she found to figure out what they did. But first, the simplest thing she wanted to test. Actually, scratch that. Two things. First, she focused and felt her circle. She wrote just the two glyphs she wanted to test first into two of the empty nodes, and she did it with mana. It went off without a hitch. Would you prefer Chaos Emerald? They're basically the same concept, one being a chic reference to the other. Yeah, I'm just like, because it's not a reference. If she calls it Dragon Balls, then it's like, my preferred would be neither. My preference would be something more original. Like, it's, okay, yeah, I don't know. Because Dragon Balls are Dragon Ball, and this isn't Dragon Ball. This is Growing Lily, so I don't know. But that's just me. Doesn't matter. It's the same anyway. Without a hitch. Just like she thought. If she kept circles with empty nodes around, she could change just the glyphs on the fly by writing them in with mana. The downside, though, was also just as she thought. Lily slumped forward, her hands on the concrete, gasping. The amount of effort that took compared to writing it in with chalk was literally staggering. When she could, she glanced up. The nodes still appeared empty, at least to her eyes, but she could feel the two glyphs there, clearly in the way that she normally sensed mana. Her first test was simple. She took the two radicals that made up the flame glyph and split them. Normally, the glyph looked like a little flame with lines coming off it, almost cupping it. So in one node she had the little flame, and in the other she had drawn in the lines. She could tell they were active, but neither of them appeared to be doing anything at the first glance. Mana was flowing through them and definitely being expended though. Great. How do I test this? Well, are they getting hot? When Lily could move, she went and found a stick, then put it over the little flame node. Instantly it burst into flames. She yelped in fear and tossed it out into the road. Grabbing the abolisher of mistakes, she sprayed it down vigorously. It went over like a normal firewood, thankfully. It went over? What? It went out like a normal firewood, thankfully. So Lily turned back to her work. Getting down on her hands and knees near the circle, she looked closely at the nodes. Oh. The air was warmer around the little flame one. She reached towards it, carefully. She wasn't willing to put her hand above the node, but she wanted to make sure she was understanding correctly. She was. There was just heat. Just like her heat to monoglyph made it cold. She wasn't sure how hot it was there, but she suspected she could turn it up or down by giving it more or less mana. Well, that settles that. What about the other one, though? It was not heating up at all, which made sense. It was another glyph. If there were two constituent parts of fire, what would that one be? A chemical reaction? Light? Oh, duh, it is light. But it's already bright here. How can I double check? She looked around. Well, she couldn't make it darker, but she could turn up the light, right? So she erased her newly discovered heat glyph and turned up the capacitor to allow more mana through. She turned to look at the suspected light glyph. Ah! She yelped in pain and turned to look away. My eyes! Ow! Shit! Too bright! It was like she had looked directly into the sun. She closed her eyes and turned to face the circle. She could almost see it with her eyes closed. Way to blind yourself, Lily. Good job. This is going great. She unmade the light glyph. It was like turning out the light bulb. Instantly, her closed eyes didn't feel like she was facing the sun. She sighed loudly. Well, that's not what I expected. I thought I'd have a little glow ball or something, like a will-o-wisp. That's how the light spell always works in games. She laid on her back and inhaled deeply. When she opened her eyes, she could still see the spots, but it wasn't so bad. There's so much to do. At least erasing glyphs isn't nearly as tiring as writing them. I do have one more thing to test before I really get into it, though. Time to experiment on myself. I haven't been looking forward to this. But there was no sense putting it off forever. Besides, if it worked, it would help her a lot while she did the rest of her work. The idea was simple enough. She had a spell now that could charge a mana battery without letting it overcharge. So what would happen if she did that again? But she was the battery. She'd been thinking about it for a while now. Her gut was telling her a simple truth. Why couldn't she channel mana from herself in more than a pathetic little amount? Because it was probably like discovering a muscle she'd never used. It was pathetic right now, but if she did it more, she ought to be able to do more and more in the future. Admittedly, it was a theory, but it just made too much sense when she thought about it like that, and she was pretty sure that she could already do a little more than the first night she tried it. So if she sat in a circle that charged her up without making her sick, and wrote out her glyphs today like that, it would be like working out. But she suspected it would be like working out, as in super tiring. Still, she was going to do Still, she was going to do Why can I not read? Still, she was going to be doing a lot of magic moving forward, so she had to start somewhere, right? Assuming it doesn't kill me. With optimism like that, who needed challenges? Lily grimaced and started writing the circle. It was a simple modification of her circle from earlier. Instead of gathering ambient mana, she had it using heat to mana. She figured the cool air might help her, and put it far enough away from her on the circle that she wasn't in any real danger of accidentally putting a hand into it or anything. Okay, now we just have to set the capacitor to send me only one mana at a time, and complete the circle. Come on, Lily, you got this. If it makes you sick, you can just roll out of the circle and spray it down with the hose. It's just shock. Shock can't hurt you. She was very aware that shock could hurt her, but she completed the circle anyway. Mana filled the circle and flowed into her. At first, she thought she had made a big mistake. It was uncomfortable. She felt like a garbage bag that was so full it was about to tear at the seams. But just when it was about to become too much to bear, it stopped. She watched it flow into her overflow. She closed her eyes and tried to endure it. Ow, okay, deep breaths. Oh, this sucks. Okay, I've got this. I just need to focus on science through this. Testing. Wait, what was I testing next? Her veins felt like they were full of electric fire. It was so hard to focus. She tried to imagine what she wanted to do next, but it wouldn't come at all. Then she had an idea. Similar to what she'd done when she was overcharged in the pit, she focused on creating a spell in her palm. But instead of fire, she created light. Only a little. She pulled just enough mana out of her to make the edge off, and channeled it into the light spell. She opened her eyes and looked. It was too bright to see how much light she was conjuring, but it really did take the edge off. Only now she had to focus on keeping the light spell going, and whatever she was doing. It was a little easier than with the sheer discomfort of being overfull with mana, but it was still very difficult. This is harder than I expected. So much harder. But it's practice, right? I have to get better at this. I have to. This is important for my future, so I'll just do it as long as I can. Every day, until I know all the glyphs. Yeah, let's try that. Lily focused on maintaining her breathing and glanced over her notes. What was next? I wish Star would come back. The dog had been playing in the nearby woods since about half an hour before Lily had come outside. He wasn't normally gone this long, and it would be comforting to have him here with her. But he was an intelligent being. At least she thought he was, so she would let him have his freedom. When he came back, she'd tell him how much she'd missed him. In the meantime, Lily had work to do. So much work. Star had gone out to check his markings again when he and his master had left the den. What he had found was unacceptable. He had stood frozen as the smells washed over him. Not only had the strange pack of invaders covered his own marks, they'd made marks inside of his territory rather than just on the border. He could tell which one was the leader too. a large female dog. Her scent was not only past his territory line, but apart from her marking, he could follow the trail to where she had been, and it extended right up to the fence of his backyard. There he found a hole in the fence, and worse. She had eaten some of his eggs! His eggs! His master's gift to him, crafted by the egg layers. This was unacceptable. The message was clear. I have to kill them. Fall in line. You don't have territory. Unacceptable. 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 Star had wanted to put off the conflict, but he couldn't allow this for even a moment longer. If these intruders would respect even a physical barrier, it was only a matter of time until they struck first. If they attacked while he was with his master, she would not be able to defend herself from the wild pack. She was squishy. No, now was the time. He would take the fight to them rather than sit here and be humiliated. But first he hopped the wall again. He wouldn't justify the holes the great foe had made by using it himself. Once inside his inner domain, he sniffed out the remaining eggs and consumed them all. Even if he were to fall, not a single one of his remaining gifts would go to these wild wretches. Once he'd consumed his master's great bounty, he set off on his new quest. He wasn't sure how long he would be gone, but he did not want to worry his master by saying goodbye. With any luck, he would return before the sun fell. So with that, he left. He began his hunt by sniffing out the leader's trail again. He was hopeful he could end this in a confrontation with her alone. Other members of her pack were likely not to blame, although he had no intention of claiming dominance and taking over leadership. No, he had his master to consider. Without him, she would surely perish. Taking on other responsibilities was out of the question, but this quest was part of defending his master. The trail led into the tree line and then continued down along the coast. He had never been this far into this direction before. For that matter, ever since he had started being aware, he had not been so far from his master. Ever since he had started being aware. Aware of what? Himself? Aware of master? For a moment, he wondered if his awareness might fade. It had begun while he had been with her, but the further he traveled, the less concerned he was. He still felt like himself after all, and he had bigger things to worry about. Okay, so Lily is giving Star awareness. Okay. As he continued, the smell of other dogs became stronger. It started to become more difficult to follow the leader's scent amid all of the different dog smells, particularly when different scents caught his attention. He was able to learn more about the pack. They were hungry. Some smelled malnourished and stressed. This changed his perspective somewhat. He had thought they were coming to invade his territory from a position of power, but he was beginning to think it was a position of desperation and aggression over resources instead. Still, aggression was still aggression. He must not let his empathy shake his resolve. If they were desperate, they may be even more eager to attack. After all, his master's bounty was great. She controlled the duck feet and the flow of kibble. The flow of kibble. Perhaps he could entreat her on behalf of these intruders. Well, that would depend on how this conflict went. If they were determined to solve the situation with violence, then he would have to solve it with violence. Just as he made that decision, he came to a clearing. It was on a cliff overlooking the sea. Below him was a cove where the sea had carved a small beach into the stone cliffs. The wind blew, and he could smell the stench of dogs. More than 10, at least. Wow, that many? I thought it was like 5 or something. As he followed the scent further, he found it led to a small path that would lead him down the cliff and onto the sand. But rather than following it immediately, he lay down and observed. The wind was blowing up out of the cove and into his face, so he was certain his smell wouldn't give him away to any of the dogs below, so he waited to see what he was up against. Below, most of the dogs were resting. A few were huddled together, but most had simply found their own spots by digging slightly into the sand. 2 of them were gnawing on bones from what seemed to be a fresh kill. Then his eyes found her, the leader. It was the most beautiful dog he had ever seen. A large black and white wolf-shaped dog with glacial sapphire eyes. Okay, She was the only dog in the cove eating an actual meal. Her coat was glossy with a sort of radiance that the others didn't have. He knew instantly it was her. She hadn't spotted him yet. It was time to make himself known. He proceeded up to the edge of the cliff and howled. There was a sudden rush of activity from below as all of the dogs shot to attention. She, however, continued chewing while staring up at him, and when his howl was over, it was her turn. At that moment, Star heard the howling of a demon. Oh wow, okay. Demon girlfriend dog. I wonder if the dog is like, if it's possessed or something, or if it's just like, oh, this is just a dangerous dog and he just calls her a demon, or if it's like actually something magic about her as well, since Star obviously has some magic going on. Chapter 28. In a no-name cove on the coast of California, just outside of Santa del Mar, a scene was brewing. Down on the sand, a pack of dogs numbering 12 was standing to attention and gathering. Down the side of the cliff, along a small path leading down to the beach itself, a large white dog with a black mark on his forehead was descending at a calm walk. Internally, he was anything but calm. However, to give that up would be defeat in and of itself, so he forced himself to be calm. To walk with purpose rather than run or cower. Step after step. Below, he could see the dog spreading out so when he stepped onto the beach, he would be surrounded. As he set foot on the sand, one of the most important battles for determining the outcome of this world had officially begun. Of course, no one present knew that. Some part of it Some part of him had expected to be rushed from all sides right away, but as one of the packs linked closer to get into position, the leader barked loudly in that direction, and it ceased. Star made his way to the center of the circle and stopped. He looked at the leader curiously, and then understood. He was a challenger to her authority. She would deal with him. Well, that made things simple. It was mutual that neither of them wanted the others involved. He met her eyes and stood as tall as he could. He could feel his hackles rising as he let out a growl and tried to communicate his intent. I came to settle things. She took a few steps forward into the circle. She was a little bigger than him, and he could She was a little bigger than him, and he could sense some amount of mana on her. See? Although she didn't seem to have his spark of intellect that he could tell. Her fur bristled, gleaming in the light of the setting sun. He saw her take a ready stance, and then she dashed. Fast. She was so fast. He dodged her charge with difficulty, spun and snapped at her. She effortlessly dodged it, and charged again from his side, slamming him hard enough to send him rolling. Star found his feet as fast as he could, only to find her stalking a slow circle around him. Why had she not leapt? Then he realized. She was toying with him. Well, of course. He was an asset. If she could force him to submit rather than tearing his guts open. As if he would. Star took the initiative and leapt at her, but his enemy sidestepped with the attack with ease. Fine! His next movement was a feint, and when she dodged again, he changed course to aim where she would be moving to. But just as his teeth were about to clamp down on the flesh covering her ribs, the she-dog blurred. She was gone. For a second, he lost track of her completely, before she slammed him again from behind. How had she moved so fast? She's a ninja. He hit the sand, rolling again, and found his footing. She was stalking around him again. This was bad. Where she had hit him really hurt. He thought he might be bleeding, even though she hadn't used her teeth. But he had no time to look right now. If he waited too long, she would be making the first move. What did he have that she didn't? She was faster and larger. How was he supposed to win? What did he have? He was smart and he could jump high. How could he turn that into a win? This time, when his enemy lunged forward, Star ran. He had an idea. She chased him, gaining on him quickly. Star played the coward, whining and running from her along the outside of their Star played the coward, whining and running from her along the outside of their arena. Strange dogs snapped at him as he got close, but didn't move from their spots. When the demon was right on top of him, practically nipping at his feet, he made his move. He kissed her. She will never expect it. Focusing the energy he'd normally put into a jump, he kicked as much sand as he could directly into her face. He heard the sharp sound of pain as sand went into her eyes, and immediately turned. Let's see her try to dodge blind. This was it. His chance. This would only work once. He leapt, throwing himself on top of her, and clamping his teeth down over her scruff. But the second he did, he realized he'd made a mistake. Pain! Sharp pain filled every part of him that was touching her. Her fur was sharp, like 1,000 needles digging into his flesh. Oh my god, it's actually a hedgehog. He yelped in pain and rolled off of her, trying to shake as many of the needles as he could off of him. What? How had she done that? He stared as she rubbed at her eyes, shaking her head. The mana. Of course. The mana was infused into her fur. It was strong. Strong and sharp. How was he supposed to hurt her? More than that, his plan wouldn't work twice, and she had almost recovered from his last-ditch sand attack. Think! Think! The monster had recovered, and she looked angrier than ever. He knew. This time, she'd be coming at him for real. She lifted her maw to the sky and howled. It echoed through the cove like a demon's scream it was, and this time it echoed through Star as well. Straight into the depths of his heart and soul, he could feel it ringing through him. The next charge would be do or die. But how could he win? He had to outmatch her speed with his wit again, in a different way. And on top of that, he might be able to force a surrender if he had his teeth around her throat. But anywhere else wouldn't work, and even then he'd have to power through the pain. He just couldn't inflict enough damage on her to win without hurting himself too much in the process. The orange light of the setting sun had never felt more ominous. Was the sun setting on his life as well? Star braced himself, ready to run. If he could buy himself even another couple seconds to think of a plan, it would be worth it. He had to do this. He had to win. Right now. If he didn't, his master... The she-dog lunged. Star turned and ran again, as fast as he could. Just a little longer. A little longer. He turned towards the shore and briefly considered diving into the water and hoping he was a better swimmer. Then a real plan hit him. The setting sun was still a little above the horizon, and he ran straight for it. As he reached the edge of the arena, he leapt, higher than the dog guarding the edge could have known Star could leap. Right over it, and he continued towards the shore. Pushing her packmate out of the way cost the leader a second, letting Star get a little more time, and as he reached his destination in ankle-deep seawater, he turned and howled. A challenge. A challenge she wasn't going to let him get away with. He saw her put on her full speed. She was a blur. Black and white with flashes of glacial blue, a whirling flash of teeth and fur. But just before she reached him, he leapt, straight up. Her eyes moved to track him, and... He was backlit by the sun. He could see the moment she realized she wouldn't be able to track his movements. This was it. His one and only remaining chance. He braced himself for the pain and landed on her bodily, shoving her to the sand and the water beneath them. His teeth found her throat. The enemy's fur dug into his flesh, drawing blood and stinging. But he forced himself to hold her still. Just kill her. Because the second half of his plan was only a second behind, a wave hit them. It was only high enough to come up to Star's chest, but that was enough that the she-beast's head was fully under the water. Okay, he's drowning her. He let go of her throat and focused on keeping her down through the pain. He had this. He could do it. He was going to kill her? Wait, did he want to kill her? No, not really. But was this the only way? He would do it if it was the only way. If he let her up, could he still force her to submit if she didn't right away? The thrashing under him grew weaker. Star realized he didn't have the heart for this. Whatever happened, happened. This wasn't prey. Killing for food was one thing. This was one of his own, and she was responsible for the others. Hello, Katakai. We're currently killing dogs. Drowning dogs in the sea. Welcome. Star let off the pressure and started towards the dry sand. Then he instantly realized another problem. He wasn't sure she would make it on her own. By now the water was flowing out, but she didn't seem to be getting to her feet. Star turned back and bit her scruff. Pain filled his mouth, but he bore it. He began pulling. Fortunately, he was more than strong enough, and in less than a minute he had her up away from the waves. She was still conscious and moving, but sluggishly. Coughing, and once she was able to move more freely, she vomited. A shame. It was a waste of food given her pack's current situation. What the fuck did I miss, right? Star is on a mission to fight off the dog pack and found a female dog that has mana embedded into her fur, and now he is like, you gotten too close to my territory, now I have to kill her. And then she's like, wait, I don't want to kill her, and now she almost drowned. Star stood over her, preparing to begin the fight anew if she tried anything. But when she was able to breathe, she showed him her belly. He had won. He had won. He had won! Star let out a howl of victory. But now what? If he simply maintained his territory, wouldn't this new pack starve? He didn't want to cause them starvation. What could he do? He looked over the pack, now all quite willing to show him their bellies as well. I just, like, I know that that's like, oh, the submission type of thing. It's like, okay, we're not gonna fight. But it's funny if he just turns around and then it's just 12 dogs simultaneously. It's like, boom, turns onto their bellies. What the fuck? Like, please don't drown us in the ocean, you sick fuck. Good. Let it be so. But he didn't want to replace the pack leader. How could he communicate this? He would help them, but he would not lead them. As he was thinking of this, a strange smell caught his attention. Magic? He could smell magic on the wind. And a beast. An idea struck him. He was going to lead them on a hunt, let him provide for them, and then leave. Lily was starting to get really worried. She was still sitting in her driveway, but she was stopped doing magic. She had stopped doing magic. Oh, I fucking never just redo that. She was still sitting in her driveway, but she had stopped doing magic. The sun had gone down, and Star still wasn't back. What was she supposed to do? The first time she let him wander off and he just didn't come back? Had something happened? Or had he decided he didn't want to be here? She thought they had been on such good terms. No. Lily shook her head. Star wouldn't do that. But that left either he didn't think he'd be out so late and was heading back, or something happened. A while ago, she'd considered that maybe he was lost. Her magic practice had paid off for the day too. She'd figured out how to conjure a glowy ball of light, like she had expected, a light spell to work. It involved a glyph for light, and one from the pit that seemed to just concentrate whatever it was pointed at. So she had conjured a rather large orb of light and had it floating above the mansion. She was really hopeful it would help Star find his way back if he was lost, but she felt hopeless to do anything. Even if she knew what direction to leave in, she knew those wild dogs were still out there. The last thing she wanted was to go out looking for Star and end up getting eaten by hungry animals. But could she wait until morning to go looking? Star, where are you? I'm worried. Please come home. She'd said as much out loud 100 times since the sun went down, but this time something different happened. She heard a loud bark from outside where she could see, and recognized his voice. It came from around the side of the house towards the forest. She jumped up and ran over there, more relieved than she could express. Oh, thank goodness! I was worried sick, mister! I'm never ever letting you— Oh my god! As she turned the corner, she was not prepared for the sight she saw. The first thing she noticed was blood. So much blood. A wave of relief passed over her when she realized it wasn't from Star, but then she realized what it was from. Half of a full-sized bull elk was laid out neatly next to Star. What the fuck? It seemed to have been torn into 2 pieces. How? Where was the other half? How did Star get it here? Why? Oh, what the hell? Star barked and wagged his tail. What am I supposed to do with this? You know I can't just tear into it with my teeth, right? Star's tail stopped wagging, but the happy panting face continued staring at her. He tilted it slightly, confused. Did you get that for me? Star barked and the tail wagging started again. Can you move it? Bring it here? She had practiced bring it here with him, so she wanted to be sure he understood. She watched in complete awe as he grabbed an antler in his mouth and pulled. It didn't move quickly, but it did slide slowly through the grass. Okay, I get it. Let's get it into the backyard. Then maybe I can freeze it with magic until we figure out what to do with it. I can just keep it frozen and give you frozen bits maybe. Oh god, I don't want to touch it. Star looked offended and let out a small whine. No, it's not like that, Star. I'm happy. It's a lot, okay? Thank you. You're a good boy. But don't stay out so late next time. You really scared me. I guess you were out getting this? Jeez, I'm not short on food to give you, you know. He just stared. She met his eyes and could swear there was even a little more than when he There was even a little more than when he left. He just stared. She met his eyes and could swear there was even a little more there than when he left. She sighed. All right, let's get this thing inside the fence at least. Oh, a little more. Oh, like a little bit more of like awareness. Is that what she means? Oh, like, oh, there's more intelligence in his eyes. Interesting. He's growing. Chapter 29. In the soft light of morning, light glistened off the sheen of frost on the front wall of a frozen elk. Normally, it would have been melting, but if anything, it was growing colder with time. A bird flitted down to peck at the meat, but changed direction and let out an irritated squawk when it felt the aura of a cold that surrounded it. A girl, her dog, and a stuffed seal sat on the concrete porch outside a sliding glass door, looking at the elk circle. Elk sickle. Ah ha ha. They had been sitting there for over 5 minutes, and they represented a whole emotional spectrum. The girl was frustrated and confused. You could see it in her expression and body language. The dog seemed quite pleasant with himself, on the other hand, while the seal, well, he looked the same as always, but Lily was pretty sure he was judging. Star, I love you. You know I love you, right? He whooped and groaned. I guess I haven't said those words, so you probably don't. Huh. Okay. Well, you're my dog. Dog? You know? Oh my god. Star whined. Lily rolled her eyes. At herself, I hope. But you have to find a way to explain this to me. What the hell? How did you even catch and kill an elk? Why was it soaked in mana? How did you get it home? Where's the other half? I have so many questions. It's bullshit that you can't speak. He barked loudly. Lily was pretty sure it was because she said speak. She leaned over and rested her head on the dog. The steady whooshing sound of his tail over the concrete answered her. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna turn off the spell. We're gonna take a knife from inside and cut into it. I'm gonna try to get your breakfast out of this, because I won't have your work going to waste. But I want you to know, I'm not good at this. I've never done anything like this before. I don't know what parts are good and what parts aren't. And I won't eat any. At that last bit, Star let out a high-pitched whistling cry. Oh, come on. Listen. You have all these natural instincts, and you know how to deal with stuff like this. I'm a human. I've almost never eaten anything that didn't come out of a package from the store, like your kibble. I need my food to be prepared and cooked by someone else, okay? There was another cry, but softer. Bay, back me up here, would you? Therapist Bay. Bay seemed to be enjoying this, so Lily sighed and got up. Retrieving a sharp-looking knife from the kitchen, she returned to deactivate her spell. The spell was just cooling the elk and venting excess mana into a number of little lights. As she broke the circle, the lights all winked out. It's like I have to remind myself as well that Bay is a stuffed animal. I was like, right, Bay is just a stuffed animal. She went to cut into the flesh of the elk, reluctantly, but it was frozen solid. It was like scraping her knife against a rock. She tried to stab into it with the pointy end. That got her a little further. At least the knife went in, but only about an inch. Hello, JP! Okay, thank you so much for joining anyway. I hope you're having a good time at work. Sneaky stream. Have a good stream. Thank you. Have a good shift. Wait, but I can't let it thaw out here to get some. I really should have thought of getting some videos about butchering animals. What do we even do with this thing? She felt a gentle nuzzling at her leg. Lily startled, but saw Star seeming to try to comfort her. She gave him an exasperated look, but reached down with her non-knife hand and pet him. He stepped forward and started sniffing at the elk. Then he bit. His teeth sank right in, but even he was unable to just pull away a chunk of meat. The dog started chewing fiercely, tail wagging. He looked far more bestial than Lily was used to, and she sat back. Huh, I guess that works. I was just gonna say, like, why does she even have to cut it up for him? Like, he's a dog. Like, you know, like, he killed this thing to begin with. Like, he doesn't need utensils to eat this. I can just turn the spell off for you when you want, and you can just, like, chew on it? Alright, okay. Let me know when you're done, okay? Lily went back to the porch and laid out using Bay as a pillow. Even the sounds of Star chewing at the elk were a little much, so she turned her attention to the sky. It was a little unsettling looking up like this, but she was trying to force herself to do it at least sometimes. She remembered how comforting it had been on her first day. The idea that there was just nothing up there was uncomfortable. Behind the blue lay an endless expanse of nothingness. How was she supposed to deal with that? For all she knew very little about Entity B, and she knew even less about Entity A. But there hadn't been any new information at all. So how was she supposed to learn anything? Whatever it was so far above her that she couldn't think of anything she could do to even test her hypothesis, but she was getting off track. After Star had returned home last night, she had given him a bath. He was covered in blood. It had turned out that some of it was his as well. He was definitely injured in his hunting. Why would he bother? He had food. She didn't understand. Was it just an animal thing? She wished more than anything he could tell her, but she hadn't figured out the side of communication yet. What's worse, she was having a hard time seeing him quite the same as before. He seemed a bit more intelligent since yesterday, which was unsettling but cool. What really made the difference, though, was... She looked over and watched him chew a hunk of meat off the elk. He'd already eaten what Lily would have assumed was a meal-sized portion for him, but he just kept going. He looked like a wild animal. Bestial. His maw was coated in red. It's not like he was acting any different, really, but seeing him like this frightened her, just a little bit. If she could just communicate, she could get some reassurance. But no matter how smart you are, you're not going to grow vocal cords, which means it's up to me to figure it out, huh? The sounds of meat tearing from the body ceased for a moment while Star listened, and then resumed. Lily sighed loudly and closed her eyes. Maybe she could find one of those things people had in internet videos, the ones with the buttons that said words, so your animal could step on them to communicate ideas. Would the pet store have things like that? I know what those are. They're like creepy, but also, I don't know how to feel about them. Like, I don't know how real I actually think that they are, type of thing. The sound of something solid hitting the concrete next to Lily snapped her out of her stupor. She jumped up and stared. A bloody face stared back at her. Lily yelped and skittered backwards before she realized it was just Star. He was wagging his tail and presenting her with something. It was bloody and almost perfectly circular. Lily gagged. I don't want any. Thank you, Star, but you shouldn't have. But you. I don't want any. Thank you, Star, but you should have it. Star tilted his head and stared at her for a moment. Lily examined the object and realized something now that she was really looking at. It was absolutely saturated with mana. What the heck is this thing anyway? Did that come out of the elk? Well, I still don't want it. Are you sure you should eat it? Star, sensing there was a chance neither of them would be eating the prize, lunged forward and worked it down before Lily could say another word. She laughed. Okay. If it's that good, thank you for offering it to me, but I'm glad you got it. Besides, it was a ball. Dogs should have a ball. Actually, now that she thought about it, dogs should have a ball. Lily rose and reconnected her circle. The lights flicked on, and she turned to go looking. Maybe in the garage? This was a rich house. There's no way there weren't tennis balls around here somewhere. So I was like, what does a rich house has to do with they would have balls? But then it's like, tennis balls, of course. Tennis. They would have golf balls at least, but they're too small. It took half an hour, but Lily did eventually find a tube of tennis balls in the second garage, along with a lot of other sporting goods. Baseballs, a basketball, tennis rackets, baseball bat, volleyballs, and more. For now, she just grabbed the tennis balls and headed out front. Lily called Star over and pulled out one of them. Alright, buddy, we're gonna play a game, okay? I'm gonna throw the ball and you get it and bring it back to me as fast as you can, alright? Star gave her what she read as a suspicious look. Hey, trust me, it's fun. I could never run as fast as you, but with this, we can play together. Just do your best to get it, okay? Catch it if you can. Lily tossed the ball softly to illustrate the point. To her surprise, Star jumped and caught it with ease on his first try. Lily grinned. Good boy. Now bring it back to me and I'll throw it for real, okay? And then she just, boo! Turns out Lily has an amazing throwing arm. He gave the ball to her. It was so nice having an intelligent companion. She had thought she'd have to teach this game to him for a while, but he got it no problem. So true to her word, Lily wound up and threw the ball as hard as she could, aiming for distance. To her surprise, Star intercepted it. It had hardly gone 10 feet. He leapt and caught it like it was no problem. Star spun in the air and landed in what Lily could only think of as a way too cool a pose for a dog. He had an anime pose. He trotted back to her and gave her the ball again, then back to his spot, tail wagging. Lily stared at him, then the ball. Huh, okay. Okay, I see how it is. Fine, that's my bad. Let's try this again, okay? Star barked. Lily knew what to do. She just had to throw it way over his head. She wound up and heaved with all her might. It flew high, at least 10 feet in the air, with plenty of inertia to carry it a good distance too. Lily's jaw dropped as Star leapt. He caught the ball out of the air, at least 10 feet in the air. His tail wagged and he huffed excitedly as he brought her the ball again. Lily patted him and accepted it, in a daze. What? Star made an impatient sound and took it on a playful stance. Lily snapped out of it a little and smiled genuinely for the first time in what felt like a while. Oh yeah? Fine. I can see I've underestimated you. You're no ordinary dog, so let's just turn up the difficulty a little, huh? Stay here. Lily went inside and dashed up the stairs. Trepidation about unexplored parts of the house thrown out in a distance. The upstairs consisted of 4 rooms that seemed at first glance to be unused bedrooms. What a waste! Well, she knew just what to do. She found a second-story window, opened it, and called to Star. She saw him run around the side of the house, and she threw the ball again, this time from her new vantage point. This time there was no way Star was going to jump that high. She was right. It went way too high for him, and he bolted to keep up with the ball's trajectory. He was so fast. The ball went far. Lily realized she must have gotten a bit stronger since all this started. At least a little. Star jumped bushes, zigged and sagged around obstacles, and still managed to catch the ball. Lily was shocked, and shocked too to realize she was having fun. She ditched her plan of getting high up because another thought had struck her. She dipped into the office and grabbed a Sharpie, along with one of the new tennis balls. As she came out the front door, Star was there, ball in mouth and wagging his tail. Lily hugged him tightly, ignoring the smell of the meat that was still a little on him. Good boy, you're amazing at this, but don't underestimate me just yet. I'm the smartest girl in the world. Just don't make a face on it and call it bally or something. Even Star seemed to think that this was a lame joke, but Lily sat down and started on her new plan. She drew circles on the ball, 6 of them, with 1 glyph each. The same glyph she'd used to levitate a hunk of concrete out of the pit. Finally, she added 1 more circle to the ball, this one formed of her own mana, and the same glyph. Lily was slightly tired out, but it wasn't actually that bad. More like running a short sprint than a marathon. Now, though, she held the instrument of Star's destruction. Lily laughed and held it aloft. Think you're so cool and athletic, huh? I'll show you the powers of a nerdy mage. Get ready. Lily found her feet. Her trash talk aside, this was going to be hard. The circles would do nothing if she didn't feed them with her mana, and she'd never interacted with a moving circle before, or one as far away as this was about to be. On top of that, she was testing a theory. Normally, to adjust a written out circle, she'd have to touch it, but the ones made of mana she could usually just feel out. So she was hoping the circles written on the ball she might be able to control relative to the ball, where the one in her mana she might be able to point around relative to her. It was just a thought, but it seemed to track with what she knew. This was going to take some practice. For now, she decided to use just the one made of mana on her first throw. She would focus on pouring mana into it and pushing the ball up. Lily wound up and threw the ball as hard as she could. As it left her hand, she activated the circle, pouring as much mana into it as she could. The ball left her hand and arched up quickly. In half a second, it was clearer the roof of the house and was still shooting skyward, accelerating in that direction even. Star bolted forward, following the trajectory. To Lily's surprise, the fact that it was moving seemed to make no difference to her ability to control the circle. However, as it got further and further away, it was more and more difficult to hold on to, and after just a couple seconds, she lost contact with it. She watched as the upward momentum came to a stop. It must have been 100 feet in the sky, but it was falling now. She watched as it fell, taking full seconds to eventually land in Star's waiting maw. Lily swore. But that was amazing. She realized with a start that this was the first time she'd really used magic for her own amusement and nothing else. Star galloped over to her and dropped the ball at her feet. As he looked up at her with one of the happiest expressions she had ever seen on his face, she couldn't help but grin in return. I have a confession. You scared me a little this morning. I feel silly about it now, but I just never seen you as capable of violence before now. Of any kind. I don't know how much you understand of this, but I'm not scared now. You're the same Star as always. I really do love you, you know? Lily realized she was tearing up and decided to focus on the game. She grabbed the ball and held it in her palm. We're partners. Let's play this game a lot, okay? I'll get better at it, and it's so fun. I have a new idea. Let's see if you can get this. Lily held out her palm and activated the circle on the bottom of the ball for just a second. Instantly, it launched straight into the sky. Before it started to spin at the top of its arc, Lily felt out one of the circles on the sides and activated that one. The end result was popping it up into the sky and then launching it at practically a 90-degree angle. She could feel it leaving her effective area, and at the last moment she found her mana circle and added a strong diagonal downward force to it. Star had been tracking its position perfectly, but as it swerved in mid-air towards the ground at a different spot, he really had to put on the speed. Lily watched intently, breathing heavily. It was going to be close. It was going to be so close. The dog dove at the last moment and caught the ball just before it hit the ground. He rolled to a stop and found his feet, then started his victory trot back to Lily. She couldn't help it. She cheered her heart out. Cute. Dog and human playing fetch. Chapter 30. Lily was laid out on the floor, cuddled up to Star. They'd been laying there for at least half an hour. The game of fetch had taken most of the morning, but eventually Lily had completely tired out her mana reserves, even having used her charging circle until she couldn't stand it anymore. With more practice, she was able to do some really wild throws. Although what she really wanted was a glyph that could cancel or alter inertia, rather than just add to it. As it was, she could make the ball accelerate in any direction, but it would be in addition to its current trajectory. She had plenty of time to learn, though. This was a game she and Star would be playing a lot. It was good magic practice for her, and he even seemed pretty tuckered out himself. It was approaching noon, though, and Lily had some other things she needed to do today, so she was trying half-heartedly to rouse herself. I suppose we should get moving. I want to stop by La Mancha and set up some Dragon Balls to charge. I know where 3 spooky spots are, assuming they're still there. Star groaned and stretched, so Lily hugged him around the middle tighter. The spots she had in mind were the spot she found Star, her old apartment, and the library, assuming the library was still mana-saturated after the blast. I wish I had a way to track these places down. I still need to find 4 more if I can, or I guess I can wait longer and just swap them out when they're charged, but maybe I should go looking. Oh. As she had that thought, something began nagging at her in the back of her mind. There was something there. Something about tracking the places down. Did she have the tools to do that magically? She hadn't made a spell like that before, right? She started mentally going over the glyphs she knew. Conjuration glyphs were out. Something like a light spell attached to ambient mana could tell her how dense the mana in the area was, but not point her somewhere. So what? The directionality glyphs she'd found were push. The condense type glyph she was using to make balls of light for her light spell, and the other one she found in the pit. It had been making the water go in circles, and it had something to do with mana! Star sat up, startled. Lily did too. It had something to do with mana. It was sending a direction to the push spell, and it was going in circles. We were in a spooky spot. What? Yeah, of course. What does a compass do at the North Pole? It spins, right? I think I heard that somewhere. Lily started scrambling for materials. She had an idea and she didn't want to lose it. She grabbed her notebook and pen and started it. 2 circles covering the page. She wrote in a mana gathering spell for the first one, gathering the ambient mana and making sure it didn't overflow. The second glyph, though, was her new experiment. It was a combination of her light spell, the push glyph, and the glyph she remembered from the pit. It had a bunch of arrows going every which way, but it also had included the mana radical. Lily completed the circle and watched her little ball of light form. It floated to the edge of its little circle and stayed there. It was a little anticlimactic, actually, for what she had been expecting. She thought it would zip off in some direction or another and she'd have to jump up and follow it, but it stayed contained on the page. She picked up the notebook and turned around. It floated to the opposite side of the page. Lily grinned like a maniac. Star, we're going on an adventure. She made a compass! Compass spell! Lily had only been driving for about 5 minutes. Then she realized the problem with cars. Her makeshift mana compass continued to point in a consistent direction, but whoever had planned the layout of roads clearly disagreed. She felt like she was navigating a labyrinth. It felt like her compass was always pointing in a direction that would see her driving through a pond or a park or a house. Maybe I really do need a motorcycle or something, huh? Yes, please. It was still a little creepy driving through suburbia as empty as it was. At this point, there weren't many lights left on, and with no cars in the road or people in the streets, it just felt empty. Even the idea of a ghost town in Lily's mind involved running into the occasional tourists. As it was, lawns were just starting to look a little unkept, gardens were wilting, and cobwebs were accumulating. The lack of sound was unnerving too. You never really realize how much the sounds of life are in the background every single day until they're not. There was no response. Lily looked over and saw Star was almost asleep in the passenger seat, curled up with Bay. Oh well, she didn't need to speak out loud too much. She still had no idea what she was driving into. It was probably a spooky spot. Was there going to be another anomaly? Just because that's how she had found the other spooky spots didn't necessarily mean they all had one. If it didn't have one, how would she know when she got there? Well, other than the compass spinning again, assuming she was right about that in the first place. Lily really hoped she wasn't wasting her time. She had put the Dragon Balls in the trunk in case she found anything. Chaos Emeralds? She was starting to think they were more like Chaos Emeralds than Dragon Balls, since she hoped they wouldn't grant a wish then scattered across the world. Maybe she should change naming conventions. It would make more... A bolt of lightning struck the hood of her car. Lily screamed and slammed on the brakes. She threw the car into park and turned it off, not sure if leaving it on would make it more or less likely to get damaged in this situation. She sat still, breathing hard for about 20 seconds before she felt Star nuzzle her arm and whine. Oh, yeah, you're awake. That makes sense. What the hell was that? Lightning hit us! Star barked, and Lily looked at where he was looking. The compass was spinning. Oh, great! This is some magic bullshit. Not that I couldn't have guessed from the lightning on a clear day, I guess. She sighed. What are you supposed to do in a lightning storm? Stay in the car, right? Was the car going to be okay? Lily instinctually pulled out her phone. It was off and wouldn't turn on. Ah, you're so unreliable. Not that it would have helped much anyways. Well, what now? Should you feel out of the circle or try to get out of the perimeter first? Lightning struck the car again. Lily screamed again. This time, Star started barking wildly until she calmed him down. It's okay. It shouldn't be able to get us in here. It might ruin the car, though. Yeah, let's move. She turned the keys. It didn't even start to turn over. Oh, well, that's just perfect. The battery is... Wait, is it out of energy or fried? I'd have thought it was fried, but wouldn't it make a sound? Or am I just an idiot about cars? Lily thought for a moment, then decided to reach out and try to feel out the circle. She closed her eyes and focused on that. There was definitely a circle here, but it was huge. It wasn't detailed at all, just a few nodes, but she was having a hard time due to how spread out it was. Maybe if she focused really hard on one at a time. Lightning struck again, and Lulu screamed. Fuck! It is so hard to focus through this. God damn! Okay, think, Lily, think! What can you do? What could a spell like this be doing exactly? Lightning was striking, but it was just hitting her car. Was her car the most likely thing to get struck around here? She looked around. Power poles might be outside the radius, and if that was the case, then yes, it was no wonder it was striking her car. Could she give it a better target somehow? What would that even look like? Something metal, higher up and away from the car. Oh no. She looked down at the car keys. Really, was she about to take a note from Benjamin Franklin? But she couldn't think of anything else off the top of her head. The key ring had more than just a car key on it. The house keys were there too, and she didn't really need those, right? This is so dumb. This is so stupid. Okay, listen, Star. This will buy us 1 to 2 strikes of time, okay? In that time, we're going to open the car and run as fast as we can straight away from it, alright? Be careful not to touch the metal of the car. I don't know how much you understand. Just run when we get out, okay? Ah! Lightning struck again. Lily swore and focused on her key. She put a small levitation spell on it, fed with a 1 mana capacitor and ambient mana. It felt weird holding it in her hand. A little like it was suddenly full of helium. Lily waited for the next lightning strike, and then she opened the door and threw the key. It immediately started to rise. She leapt from the vehicle, Bay in her arms, and dashed down the road. Star was hot on her heels. She could feel vaguely where the edge of the circle was, but it was so far away. There was a crash. Lily screamed, feeling something jolt through her and tripped, hitting the ground hard. But the lightning hadn't hit her. She scrambled to her feet while Star nudged her and kept running. As she passed the edge of the circle and got another 30 or so feet just in case, she turned around to look. What she had felt was her key spell breaking. Lightning had struck it, and the key was nowhere to be seen. Lily got down to the ground and watched for the next bolt. It hit the car again. She breathed a sigh of relief and glanced over at Star. Laughter hit her like a truck. All of his fur was standing on end from the static in the air. She wheezed and doubled over, tears coming to her eyes. You look so dumb right now. Star tackled her. The rest of the process was pretty straightforward. Lily noted down the glyphs before erasing them, and finished by breaking the circle. She waited more than an hour to be sure no more lightning would strike, casually breaking into a nearby house to search for something to drink. While she was there, she discovered some canned food, and decided to run a little experiment. It turned out she could use the heat glyph like an awesome hot plate, and did so outside to heat a can of ravioli she'd taken. She shared it with Star, even though she was pretty sure the sodium content might be a bit much for a dog. Then again, she wasn't sure which rules like that even applied to him. When she was sure there would be no more lightning, she went back to the car and got out one of the Chaos Emeralds. She chose the yellow one, because it seemed fitting. I was gonna say, because it's lightning. It didn't take long to have a charging spell up and running. The only remaining problem was, her car wasn't starting. She didn't really want to walk home or go car stealing, but Lily was pretty sure she'd figure out what the spell was doing. It was sapping electricity from everything it could to create the lightning. Ambient electricity, and she thought mana to electricity as well. Truthfully, the first thought she had when she realized that was the horrifying idea that it could have turned off her nervous system. She really wasn't sure why it hadn't, but that was a mystery for another time. For now, she just wanted to get her car moving. The idea that she could turn mana into electricity, though, was pretty fascinating, although not entirely unexpected. She thought it was likely possible since discovering heat to mana. She was just not sure how to figure out watts and volts and the like. What was the difference between those two again? She'd have to be careful not to overload devices. Maybe she could get a multimeter and then do experiments until she'd figure out a way to standardize it against mana values put into it. Star barked. Lily realized she'd been in her own little world for a while now. I really didn't realize how often I did that till you came along, buddy. Alright, so why don't we just try it on the car battery and turn it really, really low? We can wait a bit and try turning over the engine. If it's not enough, we turn off the spell. Sounds good? Star's tail wagged, hopefully. Not that you know anything about cars. Lily sighed. Not that I know anything about cars either. Oh well, if we ruin this one, we can still steal another. It was a lot of guesswork, but for once Lily felt like she was working off pretty educated guesses. Mana to electricity was just a variation of a glyph she already knew. So was the infused glyph with electricity radical, and otherwise it was just her battery spell. It could create a light to indicate when the battery was full. This was essentially just her charging spell with a few tweaks. Sure enough, it worked. Within a few minutes, she was able to get the car to turn over. For now, she broke the spell and started the drive home. None of the dashboard lights were working. Lily figured something electrical must have blown out, but she could fix it later. Wait, don't I still need to go back to my old place and see how that repair spell was working? Star, there's so much to do. Can't you drive or something? He sat up and reached a paw towards the wheel tentatively. Lily shooed him away and laughed. I was kidding. I didn't expect you to get it. Well, maybe one day we'll teach you to drive. I don't know how, but we have plenty of time. For now, I just wish we could communicate better. Sometimes it catches me off guard when you understand me. Lily thought to herself for a moment, and then she decided. Okay, we're off to the apartment first. Maybe we can repair the car while we set up another emerald to charge, huh? Star reached for the wheel again. Lily nearly screamed. Now Star is too smart. He wants to drive. Oh my god. And those were the chapters today. I feel like they were shorter this time around. It went by faster. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it just feels like that. Ain't more until end of volume 1. Oh, okay. Nice, nice. Nice. Are there only 2 volumes so far? Where do I post? Or you can post it in the Discord. In the Discord server, which you just now joined. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for doing so. I do have which tab? No, you can't post pictures in general. The fridge is like art and stuff that people do. So that or book club would also make sense. Post it in book club and just because that it has to do with the book. Since it's that makes sense. Put it there. You don't have to spoiler it if it's not a spoiler. Well, it's just about 75% that I say something like that. We're really working towards Central Finals development right now, but it's already significantly. Yeah, because I was like, if volume, because volume one is like, if you said it's about 8 more chapters, then it's almost like 40. Well, I guess it's almost 40 chapters, and then it is 80 or something now. So I guess it's the same length, isn't it? Or do you mean that the chapters are longer? Eight, but also chapter length's a little longer on average. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, hopefully I can continue to do the 5 chapters in just a bit. Okay. Well, then 5 chapters should probably be fine, so. Per video. But anyway, where we stop here now? Blah, blah, blah. Right. So now it's mostly about charging up the Dragon Balls / Chaos Emeralds and see what else the spell does after they have gathered enough energy. Yeah, it's also finding the rest of the spooky spots, I guess, and there will be anomalies just like this one. So I'm interested to see which anomalies we will find, and if the female dog is going to come back at some point, which I assume that it will. Interesting. We will see next time. They're outro done. Posted. Cute. He's cute. Little star. I can't wait 10 seconds to answer that. I can't do that. I can save my little notes so far. Yes. Boom. Then I will bookmark. Well, next stream will be tomorrow. You're welcome in tomorrow for the next stream. Oh no, rough weekend. Enjoy cuddling dog. We shall do something. Something will do indeed. Thank you. We'll streaming tomorrow. I'm going to upload my fanfic on Royal Roads today. Hey yo! Nice! Nice. Congrats. But what do I feel like doing now? What do I feel like? Do I want to play some music? Do I want to play some music? Do I want to play games? Well, it is also playing a game. I'm nervous. Don't be nervous. It will be fine. It will be all fun. All fun. How much space do I have in my computer? Not too much, sadly. Not too much, not too much. Did we did last time? Yes, we did. Should I just go easy on myself and play some? I mean, do some shiny hunting, I think so, because that's the easiest choice. I think I'll do so. I will restart the stream real quick. Real quick. I will do that. Overlay. Puke immune. Puke immune. No. Oh my god. Okay, quick restart of stream. Just refresh YouTube. It will be gone by YouTube. Okay, quick refresh. Real quick.